China, the Hungry Ghost Festival. Every year, when the 7th lunar month arrives, the streets of China are filled with the scent of incense, the sound of chanting, and the flicker of golden flames. It's the Zhongyuan Festival, known in the West as the Hungry Ghost Festival, the festival of the wandering souls. Unlike Halloween, which is playful and filled with candy, this Asian counterpart is solemn, mystical, and heavy with smoke and symbolism. The Chinese believe that during this month, the gates between the living and the underworld open, allowing spirits both benevolent and restless to roam the mortal world, visit their descendants, and sometimes collect old debts. Across the land, people whisper prayers, burn joss paper that dances in the wind, and remind each other, "Don't whistle at night this month, someone might answer you." And you believe that the living and the dead are separated by nothing more than a thin, invisible veil? Comment your thoughts below. Would you rather laugh at fear like the West, or bow your head in reverence like the East? Share this story if you've ever felt curious about the world beyond, a world where ghost tales are not meant to scare, but to remind us of filial piety and gratitude. The Zhongyuan Festival is a perfect example of how Buddhism and Taoism intertwined throughout Chinese history. In Buddhism, it originates from the legend of Vu Lan rescuing his mother, one of the most moving tales of filial devotion. Seeing his mother condemned to the realm of hungry ghosts, where food turned to fire before reaching her lips, the monk Vu Lan begged the Buddha for help. The Buddha advised him to make offerings on the 15th day of the 7th lunar month and dedicate the merit to all souls in suffering. His mother was thus released, and from then on, the day became Ulambana, the festival of filial love and compassion. In Taoism, it is called Zhongyuan Jie, the time when the earthly deity opens the gates of the underworld so spirits can take a vacation among the living. The living, in return, must prepare a feast to welcome their guests, who may be ancestors or lonely souls with no home to return to. On the night of the full moon, from small Sichuan villages to the glittering skyline of Shanghai, the same scene unfolds: fire, smoke, and floating lanterns. Outside every home, iron basins blaze with offerings, paper money, clothes, houses, even paper-made smartphones and credit cards, a spiritual bank transfer to the other side. Next to them are bowls of rice, fruit, meat, and wine, the feast for all spirits, ensuring that wandering ghosts are fed and will not trouble the living. In Guangdong, Hong Kong, and Singapore, open-air opera troupes perform for the unseen audience of the night. The front rows are always left empty, reserved for special guests. They say if you accidentally sit there, you might not be sitting alone. And when the night fades, hundreds of lanterns are set afloat on rivers, their flickering candles like falling stars, lighting the way home for the souls of the dead. The 7th lunar month is also known as the Ghost Month, the most superstitious time of the year. People avoid weddings, business openings, or traveling far. Swimming at night is discouraged. Careful, or someone might pull your leg under the water. It sounds eerie, but these taboos often carried practical lessons. A reminder to stay cautious during the monsoon season, when accidents were common. In that sense, fear itself became a tool of education, teaching people when to be careful and why. If Halloween teaches the West to face fear with laughter, the Zhongyuan Festival teaches the East to face death with compassion and remembrance. In Chinese belief, death is not an end, but a continuation of duty. The living care for the dead through incense and offerings, while the dead bless the living in return, a spiritual contract renewed each year through smoke, prayer, and a shared meal. As one Chinese scholar once wrote, the Zhongyuan Festival doesn't just save the souls of the dead, it saves the peace of mind of the living. Today, the Ulambana Zhongyuan Festival is recognized as an intangible cultural heritage in China and Hong Kong. In Hong Kong, the Teochew community's Vu Lan Ghost Festival has even been listed by UNESCO for its deep humanistic value. From Singapore and Malaysia to San Francisco, Chinese communities still keep the tradition alive, a way to say, "We still remember you." From an anthropological view, the Festival of Hungry Ghosts reveals a universal human need to stay connected with the past, to keep promises to memory and to love, even after death divides us. Westerners place flowers on tombstones. The Chinese send offerings into the fire. Different gestures, same message. I still remember even though you are gone. Vietnam Vu Lan Festival and Ghost Month. If the West has Halloween, a night of costumes, laughter, and glowing pumpkins, then Vietnam has its own version, the month of wandering souls, or the Vu Lan season of filial piety. In the 7th lunar month, the Vietnamese believe that the gates of the afterlife open, allowing spirits, both ancestors and lost souls, to return to the living world. Every year, the same familiar scene unfolds. Incense, smoke curling into the sky, offerings laid out in courtyards, children staring curiously at steaming bowls of white porridge, while adults scatter rice and salt, whispering prayers. "O wandering souls with no home, please come and eat, but do not follow us back." It's a ritual that is at once sacred and haunting, compassionate and unsettling. Beneath the smoke lies a simple Vietnamese truth: be filial to family, kind to strangers, and believe that the dead are never far from the living. How do you feel when you hear Month of Wandering Souls? Fear, curiosity, or a quiet sense of longing for home? In the West, people welcome Halloween with laughter. In Vietnam, we welcome it with incense and remembrance, because here, even the departed deserve to be loved. The origin of the 7th lunar month, or Vu Lan season, is a beautiful fusion of Buddhism and folk belief. From the Buddhist Ulaambana Sutra, Vietnamese people learned the story of Modgalyayana saving his mother, one of the most moving tales of filial love. Seeing his mother suffering as a hungry ghost, tormented by hunger and thirst, he sought help from the Buddha. The Buddha taught him, to save your parents, make offerings to the monks on the 15th day of the 7th month, and dedicate the merit to all beings. Thus was born Vu Lan, the festival of filial piety. But in Vietnam, it didn't stay confined to temples. According to Taoism and folk tradition, this is also when the gates of the underworld open, and lonely souls are allowed to return to the mortal world. Therefore, the Vietnamese hold two ceremonies, one indoors for ancestors, and one outdoors for the wandering spirits, a ritual that honors both family and compassion. By mid-month, villages and cities across Vietnam fill with chanting, crackling paper money, and murmured prayers. The ancestor ceremony is held inside the home. A table of offerings, candles, and incense for parents and grandparents, prayers for their peace in the afterlife. Those visiting temples wear roses on their chest, red if their parents are still alive, white if they've passed, a simple but deeply touching gesture. Many eat vegetarian food, perform good deeds, or release captive animals, all to generate merit for their loved ones. Outside, the Wandering Souls ceremony takes place at the gate or on the street. Bowls of rice, fruits, candies, and steaming porridge for spirits with no families. After the ritual, the host scatters rice and salt, burns a handful of paper offerings, and whispers, "Take what you need, don't fight, don't follow." Children eagerly wait nearby to collect leftover offerings to them. The Ghost Month isn't scary at all, but a lively folk festival filled with treats and ghost stories before bedtime. The 7th lunar month is also full of taboos. People avoid weddings, buying property, or starting new ventures. Folklore warns against hanging clothes at night, pulling out leg hair, calling names in the dark, or eating the offerings before the spirits do. Though superstitious on the surface, these customs serve as quiet lessons in mindfulness to be careful, respectful, and humble before unseen forces. It's a reflection of the Vietnamese yin-yang worldview. When we act with balance toward the invisible, life stays harmonious. The month of Wandering Souls and Vu Lan are not merely religious rituals, they are moral teachings passed down for generations. They remind us to live with filial piety and compassion, the two roots of Vietnamese ethics. Vu Lan teaches gratitude toward parents, honor them while they are alive, not just when incense burns. The ghost ceremony teaches empathy for the forgotten, the living will one day join the dead. Amid the bright chaos of Western Halloween, Vietnam keeps its own quiet season to reconcile with death through incense, remembrance, and kindness for souls still finding their way home. Vu Lan and the Ghost Month have become a spiritual heritage of Vietnam, blending Buddhism, Taoism, and ancestor worship, the very heart of Vietnamese culture. From a social science perspective, scholars such as Professor Ngo Duc Thin call the Ghost Month a folk therapy for the soul, a way for people to face invisible fears with the comfort of belief. The mysterious taboos, at their core, are social safeguards, ways of maintaining order, avoiding risk, and respecting nature. Perhaps, if the West needs one night of Halloween to play with death, Vietnam has an entire month to make peace with it, with smoke, gratitude, and compassion for the wandering souls still searching for home. Australia and New Zealand. Every year, as autumn settles across the Northern Hemisphere, maple leaves turning red and jack-o'-lanterns glowing, American children knock on doors, shouting, "Trick or treat!" But in the Southern Hemisphere, where the sun still blazes, kangaroos leap over fences and seagulls circle the Tasman Sea. People in Australia and New Zealand often pause to ask, should we really be dressing up as ghosts in the middle of spring? Halloween, a festival with no roots in the lands of kangaroos or kiwis, has become an intriguing test of globalization versus local identity. Half the households turn on pumpkin lights to welcome trick-or-treaters. The other half turn them off and hide inside. Halloween came to Australia and New Zealand not by ship or colonization, but through satellites and TV screens. The British once brought tea, cricket, and parliaments to these shores, but not Halloween. In the strict Victorian moral climate of the 19th century, old pagan traditions like Samhain were dismissed as superstition. For decades, no one in Sydney or Auckland had ever carved a pumpkin. Then, in the late 20th century, Hollywood began exporting fear, and everything changed. Children in Australia and New Zealand watched E.T., Casper, Hocus Pocus, and asked their parents, "Why can't we go trick-or-treating like the Americans?" Halloween arrived not with migrants, but with movies, advertising, and social media. Once supermarkets like Coles and Woolworths started selling bright orange pumpkins and Target stocked witch hats, people began to realize culture that sells stays. Today, in cities like Melbourne, Brisbane, Auckland, and Wellington, Halloween has become a secular yet deeply social ritual. In suburban neighborhoods, children dressed as superheroes, vampires, or Disney princesses go door to door collecting sweets. 10 years ago, our house was the only one giving out candy, a Sydney mother recalls. Now, the whole street competes to decorate with spider webs. Some communities even create Halloween-friendly maps, marking which homes are open for visitors, a delightfully Australian twist. Retailers, of course, have embraced it fully. In 2024, Australians spent over 450 million AUD on the holiday, making it the second biggest retail season after Christmas. Across New Zealand, supermarkets overflow with candy, pumpkins, and costumes. A few years ago, people laughed if you mentioned Halloween, one shop clerk joked. Now, folks fight over devil horns like it's toilet paper during COVID. Still, not everyone is amused. Many older Australians see Halloween as an American cultural invasion. Some homes post signs reading, "No trick, no treat." Certain schools in Melbourne even ban costumes, calling the holiday non-educational. In Wellington, whole neighborhoods go dark, not to save energy, but to avoid the knocks. The debate returns every year. Does embracing imported traditions mean losing national identity? Opponents argue, we already have Anzac Day and Waitangi Day, we don't need a holiday about candy and ghosts. Supporters laugh. But Halloween hurts no one. It brings neighbors together, makes kids happy, and gives adults an excuse to eat chocolate without guilt. And year after year, the evidence is clear. Children still knock on doors, and pumpkins still glow. From an academic standpoint, Halloween in Australia and New Zealand is a fascinating cultural experiment in the age of globalization. There is no cultural invasion here, just natural adaptation within open societies. Australians once mocked pizza and sushi, now both are national favorites. Halloween is following the same path, from strange to familiar to simply fun. A New Zealand anthropologist noted, "Here, Halloween isn't about ghosts, it's about people learning to knock on their neighbor's door, something rare in modern life." For the younger generation, Halloween is no longer an American import, but a festival of the internet age, a celebration that lives on social media, where a single photo can go global in seconds. And perhaps, in a world increasingly divided, they've found a shared language of harmless fear and genuine joy. Scholars call Halloween in Australia and New Zealand a symbol of two-way globalization, where foreign culture doesn't erase the local but fuses with it, creating something new. As one Australian journalist wrote, "We don't have to choose between American candy and Australian identity. There's enough room for both, as long as you're willing to share the sweets."